On July 9, 2014, two friends decided to explore the Cova Dels Arquets. After they concluded their dive, they discovered that their exit pathway was now silted out, and they were left groping in the deep underworld, searching for an exit. Cova Dels Arquets Cave is a cool spot in Catalonia, Spain. It's about 262 feet long and made of limestone. People who love taking pictures underwater and divers really like it. You start your dive at Ponte del Arquets and go about 164 to 196 feet more until you find the cave entrance. The entrance is about 33 feet below the water's surface and has an 8-foot wide opening. Inside, it goes up with stones on the ground, reaching about 13 feet high. The cave goes down to around 131 feet deep, and experienced divers usually find it doable. While Cova Dels Arquets Cave is generally seen as an easy dive, researchers looking into it found something fascinating at the farthest part. Towards the end, there's a smaller opening that leads to a muddy space. What's intriguing is that no one has ever been reported to successfully get through this opening. It's kind of hidden, and depending on sea conditions, visibility might be really low. So for a good amount of time, Cova Dels Arquets was like a secret known only to a special group of divers who like to explore the least estate coast. On our memorable Saturday morning, July 19, 2014, a tight-knit group of 4 friends embarked on a sea adventure from Les Estrettes port. Fueled by their strong bond and shared passion for discovery, they sailed toward the captivating yet risky charm of Captain Labari. Braving the potential dangers ahead, 3 friends named Ricard, Denicio, and another friend whose name remains a mystery eagerly put on their diving gear, ready to dive into the secrets beneath the waves. Meanwhile, the 4th member of the crew kept a vigilant eye on the surface. Not relying on ropes or any clear signs, the 3 friends boldly dove into different underwater caves, bravely navigating the twists and turns. Every cave they explored revealed its own special charm, with beautifully patterned stones and a whole bunch of sea creatures. While on this aquatic adventure, the friends stumbled upon the entrance of Cova dels Arquets, famously called the Cave of the Lobsters. This entrance went about 33 feet down below the sea surface, sparking their curiosity and giving them a fantastic chance to explore even more. The underwater world was like a hidden treasure trove, full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and our friends were all set to unravel these underwater secrets. Guided by the artificial light from their flashlights, Ricard, Denicio, and their fellow diver ventured a considerable 148 feet below the surface in the Arquets Cave. This rocky stretch is like a lobster hotspot, earning the cave its second name. But as they went further, the rock gave way to clay and a mysterious unexplored area. As they reached this point, their buddy diver started feeling overwhelmed by fear. Using gestures, he made it clear he wanted to head back up. Respecting his decision, Ricard and Denicio understood and chose to continue without him. Swimming onward, they covered another 115 feet along the seabed, but with each kick of their flippers, visibility seemed to fade. Despite this, they pressed on, eager to explore more. By the time they reached 262 feet, they both agreed it was time to end their dive. Little did they know, the challenge awaited them. The silt in the water caused them to lose their sense of direction completely. Moving across the seabed stirred up the sediment, turning the water into a murky haze. A silt-out situation is one of the worst fears of any diver, especially one not following a guideline. Little did they know, as they swam deeper, the movement of the water caused by their progress unintentionally created a thick cloud of mud-filled water. This murky mixture formed a kind of disorienting black wall behind them, hiding the path they had taken. It was like being surrounded by a dense fog, making it impossible to see any markers or lines that could guide them. Ricard and Denicio suddenly found themselves in a desperate situation with no clear way out. The darkness around them was so intense that they couldn't even make out the path they had come from. The weight of their predicament increased when they realized that the air supply in their diving tanks was running critically low. Now the search for an exit has become a tense and urgent race against time. As they looked up, they saw a tiny crack in the ceiling. A bit of light was peeking through, so they decided to check it out. They were really desperate to find a way out, so with determined hearts, Ricard and Dionisio swam toward the crack. They took a risky chance and squeezed through the tight space without knowing where it led. The passage was narrow and pressed against them as they moved forward. They were unsure if it would lead to freedom or a dead end, making them anxious. The passage went up diagonally for about 262 feet, and finally it brought them to an underground lake. It was like a hidden pocket of air that had been there for a long time, almost like it was waiting for them to find it. After taking off their gear, Ricard and Dionisio, with their heads above water and bodies partly submerged, felt like they had just narrowly escaped certain death. They couldn't believe their luck, so they decided to capture the incredible moment with a couple of photos. In one picture, Ricard's face glowed with relief and excitement, while the other showed Dionisio with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. They found comfort in sharing a newfound sense of humor, imagining the surprise awaiting the rescue divers who would find them alive. As time passed, worry crept in among Ricard and Dionisio's friends on the surface. The Geas of Lascarded, responsible for security during a popular crossing on Captive Cruise, received a distress call around 11 in the morning from Ricard and Dionisio's concerned friends. Corporal Fernando Aguirre, the Geas group leader, quickly organized the team for an urgent return to the dive site before nightfall. Even though they didn't have much hope, everyone knew that Ricard and Dionisio's air must have run out, leading to a tragic drowning. Little did they know, Ricard and Dionisio were still alive, stuck in the air pocket they found. This bubble felt like a sanctuary in the middle of their struggle. It had a good amount of air, roughly 35,000 liters, but staying in this confined space for so long had serious consequences. Breathing was crucial, but it turned out that the act itself was filling the limited space with carbon dioxide. This invisible gas silently poisoned them, putting their survival at risk in the very refuge they thought would save them. As time passed, the rising levels of CO2 in the air pocket started to take a toll. The once life-giving oxygen was being replaced by this toxic byproduct of breathing. Ricard and Dionisio, realizing the danger, felt the effects of the poisonous gas affecting their minds and bodies. As time kept ticking away, Ricard and Dionisio's situation became more and more desperate. Dehydration, confusion, and hypothermia weighed heavily on their weakened bodies, making their already tough circumstances even harder to bear. Ricard bore the worst effects of the carbon dioxide, feeling its impact more severely than Dionisio. The once lively spirits of both had faded, replaced by a solemn acceptance of their grim fate. As they struggled to stay afloat, Ricard's strength continued to diminish, making it harder for him to keep his head above the water. Dionisio, watching in concern, saw Ricard's almost lifeless body slipping into the water. An adrenaline surge pushed Dionisio to summon every bit of strength left. With a heroic effort, he grabbed Ricard, pulling his head back above the water surface, fighting against the looming doom. 5 more agonizing hours passed, taking a toll on Ricard and Dionisio's bodies. With their tanks empty and the water still murky and painfully cold, the air pocket, once their refuge, was now turning into their silent executioner. Cognitive and physical paralysis took hold, rendering them helpless in the face of their inevitable fate. Ricard's weakened body slipped into the water once more, beyond his control. In a heartbreaking moment, Dionisio, drained of all strength, could only watch as his friend's lifeless form sank into the depths. Alone and with a heavy heart, Dionisio found himself on the brink of survival, having used up every bit of energy. He was certain that his own demise was imminent. At 5 in the morning, a Geas team, led by Corporal Aguirre, entered the cave with another diver. Filled with determination, they faced the challenging and rocky terrain, swimming 148 feet, propelled by the unwavering goal of finding Ricard and Dionisio. They faced a sudden problem when they reached the silted-out aftermath of Ricard and Denicio's frantic struggle. The swirling dirt made it hard to see and also stopped them from moving forward or figuring out where Ricard and Denicio went during their desperate escape. The corporal called in the Guardia Civil National Speleo Diving Group to get ready for the rescue. They reached out to biologists, diving centers, underwater photographers, and fishermen. Until recently, no one knew much about the cave. A biologist provided a basic map that ended in the muddy area Corporal Aguirre had just entered. On Sunday, the search resumed, but by then people had lost hope of finding them alive. Specialists from Valladolid, Olesa de Montserrat, Cartagena, and Barcelona arrived in L'Escarol early in the morning. The incident had become public, and on the second day, dozens of journalists were following the story. They followed the line set up by Aguirre and his partner from the port. The first two divers of the morning reached the clay area, where visibility had improved. The mud settled during the night, revealing the fissure through which Ricard and Denicio had fled. It seemed likely that they had escaped through there. The first diver to enter the fissure reported later that after a few minutes he tried to turn around due to the narrow space, but realized it was impossible. He had no choice but to move forward, eventually reaching the bubble Ricard and Denicio had found. Using his flashlight, the civil guard explored the underground lake and found Ricard's lifeless body floating in his neoprene suit. Denicio was against the wall, holding onto the rock with both hands, half of his body out of the water, emitting a moan of agony as he exhaled his last breath. Denicio was in shock, disoriented, dehydrated, hypothermic, and breathing heavily. He was reluctant to wear air equipment. The policeman had to provide him oxygen by emptying several bottles in front of his face that they had brought on various trips. Later, they gave him isotonic drinks. The most challenging part was convincing him to follow them, to put his head back underwater, and to let them guide him. Denicio, confused and unfamiliar with his surroundings, didn't cooperate as he didn't understand where he was or who his rescuers were, and he refused to follow their instructions. Aguirre made a tough choice by asking one of Denicio's diving friends to go into the cave and reach the air pocket using the line they set up. The plan aimed to use a familiar face to persuade Denicio, and it worked, diffusing the only option they had left. On Sunday afternoon, Denicio was sedated, encouraged by his friend, and escorted by the Chaos, and he successfully resurfaced after 24 hours. He became the first diver in Spain to survive such an accident, but unfortunately, Ricard's body was later recovered. Corporal Aguirre conducted a 3-year investigation into these events and concluded that Ricard died due to hypercapnia, a condition where there's too much carbon dioxide in the bloodstream, leading to severe consequences as seen in Ricard's case. The report also noted that both divers lacked necessary training and took excessive risks, especially by diving without a line. When news broke about an investigation into the incident, considering all possibilities as is customary when someone passes away, rumors started circulating about Denicio's responsibility for what happened or his supposed failure to help Ricard. However, the final report revealed that Denicio made 2 attempts to save Ricard, pulling him back into the fissure when he saw him in trouble. These unsuccessful efforts were documented on their dive computers. The incident reminded everyone of the dangers involved in diving in the underwater world, especially when one does not follow all the necessary procedures. We would like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, take a dive on the like and subscribe buttons and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting cave diving story.